Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Saturday morning sojourn for the sports savvy soul. It's a cup of Ray. I'm down here live at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, just down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge district of St. Petersburg. And forgive me for my unusual calmness, but yes, even though rumors of my demise were greatly exaggerated, I did have one heck of a flu. I brought in 2025 with one, but I had a lot of things happening here in Tampa Bay sports, of course, with the Buccaneers locking up that playoff berth, the number 3 seed, and hosting the Washington Commanders tomorrow night on the NBC Football Game of the Week, Football Night in America. I mean, I will give the national media props for that. I'll give the NFL, I'll give streaming services, whoever's fighting for the ability to go ahead and stream these football games. I'll give you credit for putting this game on Sunday night, because not only is it a rematch of the week one game we hosted, the Buccaneers hosted the Commanders here. It's also probably, if you're looking at it, I mean, thoughts and prayers go out to the people in Los Angeles and all the California area. Of course, we heard that tomorrow's game, or the game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Minnesota Vikings, has been moved to Scottsdale. We played over there at the, is it the University of Phoenix Stadium or whatever that thing is now? Hats off to getting that thing moved. And of course, again, thoughts and prayers out to all those still affected by the Austin Walker, my friend, doing a great job out there in LA. Probably one of the most famous guys. I happen to still continue to call a friend and have him in the Rolex, of course, Florida Gator. So he's number one on my list anyway, locking it down out there. I was glad to see you and yours are very safe out there, Austin, but showing what's going on there in Palisades and that fire as it moves through LA. So yeah, I had a flu all week. Of course, it started shortly thereafter the Reliant West Bowl when Michigan, I don't want to say upset, because I kind of told you guys, of course, we had the coverage for you on Amped Up Sports and in the Sports Web of the entire bowl festivities week for the 2024 Reliant West Bowl. And from the moment I got over there, like I said, I went over to Berkeley Prep. I walked out. I walked right through the Michigan locker room. Not that there wasn't security. I had my credentials, but I turned around and there's Wink Martindale, probably one of the best defensive coordinators at the college and when he was at the NFL level. He's right there. I'm like, good morning. He's like, good morning. Just everybody was laid back. Don't want to say they played like they had nothing to lose, but they played like a team that just had beat Ohio State a month before. And congratulations to Ohio State in defeating the Texas Longhorns last night, making it to these college football playoffs finals versus the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Go Irish. Ooh, I'm going to probably catch heat for that one. Give me a second while I share this show once or twice. And please, if you have a chance, please forgive the blue blockers. But again, it's been in bed a lot for the last week. Had to climb out and had to find all my stuff so I can get down here. Congratulations to Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs. He's all world. Surprise. But not only does he get, of course, we knew what we had when we drafted Tristan right off the bat. But when he gets that All-Pro, starting a first string All-Pro at right guard or right tackle, and then now yesterday and this week announced that he gets the All-Pro at left tackle, never been done in the history of the National Football League. And I'm not talking about a grungy, grimy, dead ball era of the NFL before whatever, the Super Bowl era or what have you. I'm talking about, and I would pose that in this day and age, the intricacies of playing that position and what's asked of these offensive linemen. What Tristan's been able to do is nothing short of Hall of Fame worthy. Speaking of Hall of Fame, congratulations to Mike Evans on getting that 11th 1,000-yard season. But just give me a second here because I want to go ahead and make sure I share this show. Try to use it twice. Probably not going to work. Here we go. Oh, you know what? Since you're with me anyway, and most of the people aren't watching. I see some people jumping in there right now. Most people aren't watching right now. But again, I'll go ahead and let me riff on this because I don't want to talk Bucks until I get my head in the game here. But how about the college playoffs here? How about it, Larry? How about the college playoffs in 2024 and 25? Pretty much, not only with Notre Dame the other night getting that victory and last night's game with the Ohio State. Texas hung in there way too long, right? Excuse me for a second. This is so rude, but let's go ahead and get some people in here because I had a few people that asked me. They said, hey, next time you're live, make sure you get it in there. And the problem is I can't run my runner because Facebook's still trying to tell me that I don't have the trademark for the song, even though I own it. And my wife was the one who edited that opening for me. But I'm going to go ahead and create a new one anyway because so many of you have asked. Scott Bradford, I'm going to go ahead and rock a whole entirely new one. But for right now, let me go ahead and make sure I share this. Here we go. Probably going to get in trouble for sharing way too much, and Facebook's about to tell me I'm done. Yeah, let's do that. Here we go. Bear with me. How do you like the view? I kind of went with the big comfy couch view here. Took it back a little further, took it a little bit higher, not only to show you the expanse that is out here, and I'm not even showing you half what I'm looking at out here, the outdoor deck, which, by the way, this afternoon, now that this front is pushed through, that sun's going to come out in the afternoon. And like I've told you guys and girls here before, if you come down here to Fergs today to watch your NFL playoffs or anything out here, whether you want to be up front here in the deck with a little hoodie on, drinking fantastic, well, every beverage you can imagine, but also eating best of the bay wings, best of the bay burgers, everything Coach has got going on here. The last game show that Peter Blake and I did, I went ahead and I had the center cut pork chop. And you're like, center cut pork chop at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill? It was delicious, DJ McNew. And I got it with fries. Tim's like, you got to try it with the fries. I'm like, really? A center cut pork? It was awesome, but all the fantastic food. But whether you're doing it up front here, keeping it a little warm, enjoying that northerly breeze that's going to be coming in today with that cold front that pushed through, or you're out back here with the sun shining on you, almost treating it like great air conditioning. The world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg, has you covered. All the climates are covered, everything. Saw this week in the Tampa Bay Times. By the way, hats off to the Tampa Bay Times, John Romano, the entire crew over there, locking it down not only with the Bucks coverage this week, the playoff rematch, or the rematch, of course, the season rematch between the Bucks and the Commanders, but also what's going on with that stadium. That I'm looking just through the rafters here. And, you know, I hate to say this. Well, I hate to say it. When do I hate to say anything, self-promoter? But I was down here literally the morning after Milton. I was down here 5 hours. You got the post on my page. You can still hear the sirens. Things are going a little bit crazy. And I told you guys and girls then, even with all the canvas swinging from all the rafters there across the street at Tropicana Field, I said that entire, as far as the metal framing, looks intact. It looks even better today. And that's because I know they've already had a chance to look at it, and they've already established the fact that that thing is intact. And I'm sure they want to do laser sight lines and continue to make sure everything is safe as they continue to, or they put a new roof on it over there. But the news this week that, the Rays have now come back and said, we want you to go ahead and build that roof and stick to your, well, that's the plan. I said it 5 hours after Milton. It behooves anybody, the city of St. Petersburg, Pinellas County, the Tampa Bay Rays, to not get that thing completed, possibly extend the opening. And that's the funny thing is that was the big hubbub when the Pinellas County commissioners kind of held up on their end as far as the bond financing. And then the city of St. Petersburg followed suit. They were going back to Eric Neander and Matt Silverman. They're like, oh, what are you going to do? And, you're going to hear both sides because it is negotiations. I've not in my lifetime seen negotiate. I mean, we're happy when like an NFL player sits down with his agent and they sit down with the team, they work out a contract. Let me get to the comments before I get off on a tangent here. But that's exactly what this is all about. Cameron Decker, good morning. Hey, good morning, Cameron. Great to see you. Always great to see you. Oh, where's my boyfriend? Hold on a minute. Good to see you, brother. If you weren't trolling, you wouldn't be rolling. I tell you what, so let's go ahead and let me just jump into this matchup here on tomorrow night because we're just less than 35 hours, under 36 hours between the rematch between the Buccaneers and the Washington Commanders. First of all, there's a history here, right? I mean, we go back to 97. We remember when Tony Dungy and the Bucs, they were coming out of that abyss or that long walk through the desert when we started making playoffs again. And in 97, we went ahead and we played those Washington Redskins at the time. At the time, I think it was Norv Turner was the coach of the Redskins. And, of course, Tony Dungy was the coach of your Buccaneers with Uncle Monty on the defensive side. We won that game. We play him again a couple of years later, 2005. And a lot of you guys and girls will remember that was starting to get to be the end of swan song of John Gruden as head coach here in Tampa Bay, getting near the end of where we started realizing, okay, we had a team that was in complete rebuild mode. Bruce Allen had completely gutted this team. There were not great decisions being made because Rich McKay was already in Atlanta. I don't want to go too much into history, but so we played them and we lost that year, right? Now we're rematch. We're playing him here in the playoffs here in 2020, or we played him again in 2020. And don't forget, the deal about that game was, as Tom Brady learned this offense in week 8 of that season, and then marched us on to our second Lombardi in team history in 55 over there at Raymond James Stadium. Those Washington Commanders gave us everything we were looking for in that game. They actually did pretty well. Interesting fact in that game, if you remember, Taylor Heineke was the leading rusher for for Washington in that game, and a lot of people opposed that Jaden Daniels will probably be your leading rusher again tomorrow night, which is the narrative, right? And he's got Lincoln. He's got Cliff Kingsbury as his OC, and of course, what's that going to mean for this Washington offense? He's gotten comfortable. He's gotten better. Just like C.J. Stroud had one heck of a rookie year in 2023. It's going to happen sometimes. Excuse me. Again, I'm recovered, and I'm trying to warm the pipes up here. I'm going to be live on with Mike Rickard and the guys, Ben Botham and the boys over here at Tampa St. Pete Sports Connection here at 11:20, talking Buck football. So I wanted to go ahead and get the pipes warm. No, I'm not considering you guys my layoff. I just want to go ahead and get them warmed up. I've been so excited to do a show, but when you spend 9 days vertical, or horizontal, I'm sorry. Don Pryor, dude, it's not even 10 a.m. You're in a bar. Wall's going well. Glad to see you're still at it. Yes, Dawn. Happy New Year again to you and your partner, your friend, our friend. Yeah, I'm still at it, not giving up at all. Cameron says, where Peter? He's working, my friend. He's getting ready because tomorrow Peter's got one hell of a busy day because, of course, you guys and girls know, in conjunction with the J.P. Peterson, the Sports Web will be bringing you your pregame tailgate show from the What the Buck tailgate over there off of Himes in Tampa Bay. And then, of course, you're looking forward to, as well as I am, that postgame show from inside the stadium on the field, as only Peter Blake can bring it to you. So keep it tuned tomorrow all day. Keep it tuned all weekend in the Sports Web, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Josie Torres says, Ray, are you going to be out at Tampa side for the Rays games this year? You know I wouldn't miss it, brother. I would not miss it because as much as it's going to be hot and sticky and nasty and those the baseballs, the pitchers, it's going to be a challenge for the entire team. But they play around the entire country through the summer. But for us Rays fans, we're getting a chance to see them over at Steinbrenner Field, getting to see them play outside as we continue to get ready. We'll be breaking ground before the start of this season, and we get ready to build a new stadium just across the street. A gem in the crown jewel it is Pinellas County, and what it's going to mean to keep the Rays here in Tampa Bay. Cameron says Bucks just posted Godwin questionable for tomorrow's game. Well, the good thing about this is not only do we have Antoine Winfield coming back, and Jamel Dean, but even Cade Otton's trending for this game. The Buccaneers injury list has gotten very, very short for this game, and why wouldn't it? I mean, these dogs are going to play if they're ready, if they can or not. But now that you have the playoffs and a home Sunday night nationally televised, well, most of the playoff games are televised, but putting it right out front there, everyone's looking forward to a Sunday night game. And believe me, you're going to get your best from your Bucks. Josie also says, I want to do live streams from my laptop like what you're doing, brother. Yeah. Here's the thing. And I'm not even using my good camera. Just make sure you've got great Wi-Fi. Most important thing of all. Peter Blake had to upgrade the Wi-Fi there to bring you those lockdown, we bring you those lockdown pregame shows from the tailgate at What the Buck. But also make sure you've got a decent camera. And then I always someone asked me the other day, I appreciate you, Mr. Torres. They're like, when did you start? What is this? What's going on here? When did you start doing this? And I'm like, believe it or not, it was 2020. Bucks had just signed Tom Brady. Peter Blake and I were trying to find a place to do a safer, distanced, COVID-inspired, if you will, season of shows. And I was like, okay, so I was covering the Bucks. I was writing a daily column, 2019's Best of the Bay, best local columnist. Beat quite a few dogs on that one. I will shake that blanket or kick that dog or throw that as much as I can. But I figured I was literally writing a column every day, doing deep dive research, which I'm still doing today. And of course, you guys and girls are probably doing it now because you're big Bucks fans just like I am, Tampa Bay sports fans. But I'm like, I got all this knowledge in my head. My MO was to get up every morning at 3 a.m., especially post game or game day, because I was getting ready for a Sunday morning cup of Ray. But I'd get up, throw on Leonard Skinner Essentials. I don't know why, but that's my go-to. And it's funny because even last night at UPS, I finally got back to UPS last night and got a good night's work. But Sweet Home Alabama will come on, or Saturday night special, and automatically my brain starts to go into column mode. So I start thinking, headings and how I'm going to indent and what kind of prepositional phrase am I going to use here. But yeah, I had all this knowledge in my head, and I figured, I'm going to go ahead and do a show. And since I was fortunate enough that my family was doing a safer distance thing in North Carolina up on the top of a mountain. They juiced the Wi-Fi so the kids could do all their scholastic studies. And I was basically here alone, still working 2 jobs. But I thought, I've got all this knowledge, I've got all this time. And a lot of us were kind of doing the whole safer distancing, staying at home. And I get it. It's what we had to do at that time. And I thought, let me go ahead. I'll go live. Went live from the corner of Himes and Tampa Bay on a foggy morning pre-Bucks game. I went live from the corner of Central Avenue and 9th Street, right there in front of Enigma. I've gone live from, I think, basically everywhere in St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay, city of Hillsborough or Hillsborough County. And one of the things I kind of always have gotten a little bit of juice out of is the fact that as I've gotten to know all of our local proprietors, I've gotten to know people whose job it is to be running establishments at these various locations. They've always learned that A, I'm respectful, B, I'm never going to take away from the business. In fact, if anything else, I'll help if I can, and C, all I'm doing is talking Tampa Bay sports. So, Jose, if you're looking to do this, just do it. Because here's the thing. It may be a little rough at first. Maybe you'll be locking it down. I mean, don't use me as an example. That's not setting that bar too high. But start talking about your passion. But make sure you throw it in there. Throw it in the old, up in the old dome there. Make sure you do a little bit of research. Make sure you understand going in what you're talking about. And then try not to talk as fast as I do, because sometimes I'm amazed when I do go back and have a chance to look at some of my shows, the number of mistakes I make, because I am usually running. Dawn says, Happy New Year. Dawn, I appreciate you so much. It's so great to see you. We got to get together and do that lunch really soon. Cameron says, Ray, I run a news site. We need to do a Bucks update for, I told you, it's still exiting. 30-second clip each week, 100%. Man, I tell you what, Cam. Only if you come in there and you promise not to troll while we're doing it, but it would be awesome, my friend. Oh, Tim says, love the shirt. Yeah, I got my Bucks pin on again. Brian Ford. If I'm fortunate, I get a chance to see you again tomorrow, but had a chance to see him before the Carolina Panthers game at the tailgate at What the Buck. He came over and did a whole live thing, and Peter Blake and I were able to cover the fact that the Panthers game, which is even goes even before the Saints game, was playoff atmosphere, and he said he needed us to show out that day. And not only did all the Buccaneers fans show out that day, but so did Ducky Irving with the flyover, which was fantastic. So yeah, I appreciate you, Tim. I was going to text you personally, Tim, because I appreciate you reaching out yesterday. I wasn't 100% sure about this morning, but when I get a cloudy morning where a front's pushing through and I got a little bit of extra time and I can come down here and talk about the Bucks, I'm going to do it every time. So I want to go back and not just talk about the Washington versus your Tampa Bay Buccaneers matchup, but the narrative is nobody's even talking about the fact that the Commanders have the 30th in the league against the rush defense, that they're literally of the 12 teams, 14, I guess, if you look at it that way, but of the teams that are in your 2024 NFL postseason, the Washington Commanders have the worst defense against the rush. And we know exactly what the Buccaneers have done with the rush this year, with a Bucky Irving, with a Rashad White, with the blocking, with an all-pro now at left tackle, and a stellar job. The Pro Football Focus is great on this entire Buccaneers offensive line, which I love because we talked about this on a Cup of Ray back in, I think it was June, July, maybe even going back to OTAs in March, is that the strength of this Buccaneers offense is that offensive line. As you bury the lead with the receiving core and what they had to do this year, as you lose a Chris Godwin and you lose a Mike Evans for 4 games, he still gets the 1,000 yards. You still have a McDaniels coming on. You still have now you have a Devin Culp. Now you have a Payne Durham. Now you have a Cade Houghton getting healthy. So all those stars are right there. But let's also be honest, at the end of the day, if you don't have an offensive line holding up, giving Baker a chance to not only create those running lanes and make that play action work, which play action happens to be Baker Mayfield's strength, one of his biggest strengths, that and the fact he's got one of the quickest releases. But if you don't have that offensive line holding up, maintaining protection, and allowing your quarterback to find those receivers and tight ends, or allowing those running backs to get openings, then basically you just have a really good team with a great concept. And I'm going to try not to do that live. I'll keep my hand on the button. I apologize. Then you basically don't. Then you're not keeping up. Let me go ahead and get this comment. Cam says, Ray, you look like the chief of staff from that show where Kevin Spacey plays president. That's funny you should mention. Oh, by the way, playoff beard? Playoffs? Yes, it's a playoff beard. It's also kind of a flu beard because the last day I did shave was the day of the Saints game last week, and I'm kind of superstitious. I'm not going to be one of those guys. Of course, it'd be a stupid post anyway, and I didn't post at all for the last week with the flu, but I'm going to be one of those guys that, hey, started my playoff beard. Let's see how fast this thing. But I will tell you right now that I did get an entire new Manscaped kit for Christmas this year, Cam, and I know you're looking forward to that because I know how sweet you like to see me look good. I got the shaves, I got the blind touches. I'm gonna get fancy with this. I might even have like a Hunger Games thing going by the end of this thing with swirls and twirls. But stick with me here as we continue to grow this playoff here in the 2025 year. Yeah, Kevin Spacey plays president. That is the. I'm currently watching The Agency on Showtime, but that's actually got Michael Fassbender and Richard Gere. No gerbil jokes. It's got a bunch. It's got a great cast, but it's about the CIA. Kind of a frustrating show because a lot of it you look at it and you're like, I know that's true, but it's funny when you're in bed for a week what you can stream. What else did I? Oh, I watched Enigma, all 3 episodes. Okay, go ahead and let's lead with this one. Aaron Rodgers is misunderstood. I know ayahuasca. He's got an attitude. He's inoculated, not vaccinated, or he's immunized. I get all of that. At the end of the day, these athletes, and most of these athletes going back a few years, this has been like the pull and push since 1990s, since free agency first started, since these athletes started making the bucks, the big bucks that they deserve. They've said, look, we're going to set an example. We're going to show what it means to persevere. We're going to work through. But I'm not your child. You need to be your child's role model. You need people. And fortunately, there are a lot of great people, big brothers, big sisters, dads, moms, literal brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles. It takes a village. There are a lot of great people to set that example. But these athletes, if you're sitting your child down in front of a television and you're saying, all right, big Packers fans, we wear the cheese every day. Watch this guy. This is your role model. I would pose it now after having watched the entire Enigma series there on Netflix. Probably not the worst thing in the world. Aaron Rodgers is quite a smart dude. He doesn't get to be as great as he is, Hall of Fame quarterback, if he's not. But if you haven't had a chance to watch that, I would pose give that a shot this weekend. Forget the NFL playoffs. Forget the games today. Forget the games tomorrow. Keep yourself fresh, okay? Keep yourself fresh. When you're ready to watch the pregame show, when you see the sports web, you see Peter. Oh, take these glasses off because I know they're showing they're the blue blockers. When you see the sports web go live, when you in conjunction with the JP Peters, when you see that pregame from the What the Buck tailgate tomorrow, that's when you lock in. That's when because we're going to have the numbers, we're going to have the statistics, we're going to have the last minute injury report. We're going to tell you what's going on, boots on the ground from Raymond James. Don't spend too much time watching the game today. It's going to take a minute to work this stuff out. I got to put them back on because I can't read comments without it. Yes. Cam also says, I'm worried the Bucs secondary won't be able to keep up with this game with Washington's offense. Cam, damn. For not even a little. Hold on, let me get to that. First of all, it's not going to be a shootout. The NFL would like you to think NBC would like you to think it's going to be a shootout. Vegas wants you to think it's going to be a shootout. They set the over-under at 50 points on this game. 50-point over-under. And I did this historically. I went back just to, and I know the offenses has changed, and it's been a minute. It's been 4 years since we played Washington in 2020. Back when we played the Washington in the 2006 playoffs, right? Washington beat us 17-10. The over-under was 37.5. Buccaneers are favored by 2.5. Okay, let's go back to that 97 I told you when the Buccaneers make the playoffs. And then, let's see here. I got it somewhere. Anyway, we'll go back to 2020. The Bucs were 10-point favorites over Washington in that wild card game at FedEx Field. And, of course, Washington hung in there. Heineke was their leading rusher, and they literally gave the Bucs a scare. Of course, the Bucs would end up ultimately winning that game. Let's go back to my point is that 50-point over-under and a shootout. And I was talking to Harry Greek this morning. By the way, it's great to have friends that know someone who breaks down the film. And if you haven't had a chance to watch Wednesday night show, where Harry and Peter had, of course, the Bucs sideline guy, Mr. TJ Reeves, a media icon that is TJ Reeves. Great show on Wednesday night. Harry broke it down pretty good. The Saints were blitzing a lot. They were throwing 5 guys up in there, and they were bringing the boom from the secondary on down, and they were just cutting the lanes up. The Buccaneers were not successful in the first half in rushing that ball. It's a copycat league. You don't think the Commanders are going to try to do the same thing tomorrow night? The game's at home. It's going to be crazy. The pewter on red or the red on pewter. Tampa Bay fans just going crazy. Does Ducky even come back? We know Bucky will be there. Washington's going to try and do that same thing. And Lattimore is going to be covering Evans. And, there's going to be that narrative. They're going to have the sideline. Melissa Stark's going to be talking to Lattimore, talking to Evans. Ding, ding, ding. Michael Buffer's going to come out and say, are you ready to rumble? Buccaneers are not going to get into a shootout with these Washington Commanders because this Washington Commanders defense is not going to be able to stop the Buccaneers rush. Another thing I learned from talking to, it's a great comment, Cam all says, if they don't score enough points to keep up, we're in trouble. They're not going to have to. Well, of course, I always say, Cam, if you watch Cup of Ray and you watch a Sports Web, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, before we even get to tomorrow, we're still 34 hours, the team that scores the most points tomorrow night will go on to the next round of the playoffs. So, yeah, you got to keep those points. I'd play the under on this game all day. I hate to give what I was going to close with, but 50 points on this game, I'm not a gambler. And I did not sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. But there is no way in hell I'm going to play the over on this game to go 50. There's no way that Todd Bowles is going to scheme this defense as he picks a scout like a Joe Tryon or whomever, as Winfield's healthy and Jamel's back. And we got all of our guys in the offense at home with one of the best rushing attacks in 2024. Against one of the defenses that has this most trouble stopping the rushing. There's no way in heck we're going to even try to get into a shootout. And I'll tell you why, too, also. If you look back over this season, at times when the Bucs have struggled at home, when that defense has struggled, don't forget, bend but don't break. And don't tell me you guys and girls don't know bend but don't break. It's been bend but don't break since Monty Kiffin came in back in 96. It's been bend but don't break the entire time Todd Bowles has been here. There are moments that this defense shines. Antoine gets a turnover. Devin would get a big fumble and a score, or a fumble error and return it in the playoffs in 2020 versus the Saints in New Orleans. There are outstanding dogs on this defense. But Todd Bowles, this season, the only time you've seen us really have to open the offense, have to really start going vertical, last week against the Saints. The reason why the Bucs even got off the play action and went to a straight vertical passing game was because the Saints were blitzing and stopping the rush. Plan on your Buccaneers. If Liam Cohen is worth his weight in salt, and I think we all agree he is, because he may get the crappiest job in the NFL working for Shad Khan there in Jacksonville. Of course, he's going to interview for it, but have a chance to work with Trevor Lawrence. The reason why you're talking about that is he is worth his weight in salt. And in the Buccaneers game plan tomorrow night, it'll be run some more, pass to support the run, set up the play action. And here's the thing, guys and girls. I'll go into this. Cam Decker says, if Baker got injured, do you think Trask has what it takes to hand the ball off to Bucky, to hand the ball off to Rashad? 100%. I think he's got it. And not only that, but I also think he's got a rocket for an arm. And I think we'll see in 2025, as I get to the next comment, literally is me, Sador, and him and I have a going joke with Trask going back 4 years. I think we're going to see that Kyle Trask will get a chance to start somewhere. I'm not saying he'll win a job, but he'll get a chance to start somewhere in 2025, unless he looks at all things being equal, and the Manville kid thinks to himself, you know what, I like it here. I like to be a backup with this team. I'm not saying I won't be a starter, but these days, some of these quarterbacks, it takes 6 years. It takes a Sam Darnold. It takes a Baker Mayfield, these 6, 5, 4, 7 years to get out of their cocoon, to go from becoming a little pulp of a worm and then spreading their wings and becoming a butterfly. I think that it would behoove, that's not a Leo word, but if you could spell it, it's not, a Kyle Trask to want to sign on for another year playing backup for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think it would behoove the Bucs to not look at it. I think that you'll see, depending on what Kyle's offered here to stay, or he gets to go somewhere else and compete, you'll see the fact that he's a dog all along, Cam. I think he would be good, but let's not let it happen. Baker's the guy. Let's let Baker bake. Me says Bucs are going to have to play bully ball and pound the rock. That's what I'm saying, me. You're at home. You got the home field. The nation's watching. It was ironic because if you go back to 2020 when the Commanders almost beat us in that wild card game, which was, believe it or not, ended up being the hardest game of the postseason that year for your Buccaneers as they escaped Washington with that wild card victory. If you go back to that, it has to be bully ball. It has to be, you have to establish the rush. And again, in 2024 into 2025, you have a team that the narrative is this team knows how to rush. And you've got a first-team All-Pro left tackle in Tristan Wirfs. You've got an offensive line that grades out on Pro Football Focus as top 5 in this league across most, if not all of your parameters or all of your categories. So you're going to lean on them. Now, Washington is going to lean to stop that. Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator, the Legion of Boom originator there in Seattle, Seattle. And of course, the coach of the Atlanta Falcons, so he knows this team a little bit more intimately than most coaches. He's going to try and stop that run. So you will use the pass. You'll use some nice plays to set up that run, but you're 100% going to pound that ball. You're 100% going to bully the Washington team, and that's what you're going to have to do. And that's why I say the over in this game is where to play. Cam says, would you be open to Winston coming back when Mayfield's contract? It's funny you should say that, Cam, because Winston, who was it? No, it wasn't Shanicia this week, but it was a couple of comments. And it was Patricia talking about how much she loves Jameis. I still like Jameis. In fact, the only reason why I even look forward to watching Cleveland Browns games this year was when Jameis is playing. Maybe just as much so I realized it was as good of a chance of an interception as well of a touchdown. But I like Jameis. You talk about a Kyle Trask getting away if he signs a contract somewhere else or decides to go back to Texas or maybe to Houston Texans or closer to home, or maybe Dave Canales offers a job for him to go in there and back up Bryce Young in Carolina because he knows him intimately, or Liam Cohen brings him to Jacksonville because he had a chance to work with him this year. He knows what it'd be like to have a Kyle Trask as a backup. I don't know if Jameis, I don't think Jabu would ever just jump on board with that for easy, but I think that he's got a comfortability here in Tampa Bay. And as far as a backup, I think that the Buccaneers have enough goodwill with the fans and the entire community that I'm not saying it's going to happen or that I'm hoping it does, but my glasses are on again. I think that you could 100% bring in a guy like Jameis as a backup to have him ready to go out there and eat some dubs and give that pregame speech just because he's one of the most riling and one of those guys that could just stir up an entire team because he's so passionate, loves the game. I don't know if he's ever gotten to where he wanted to be on that leadership role. Jameis has always wanted to be a leader. He was just too immature to be a leader when he was here. And now that he's gone other places, you continue to see Jameis take that role to be that leader. Seems like he's found his faith, which has been a great thing for Jameis and the Winston family. Would I welcome him back here? I know you're kind of half trolling, Cam, but I would. Ben Cornett says, Bucko Ray, what's up, brother? Going to be a great game tomorrow. Yeah, I'm looking so forward to it. I am not. I wasn't going to watch last night's game. I watched the first half, which, by the way, a lot better than I thought it was going to be. But I'm watching the game. Texas hung in there so much longer than I thought they would. And then, so at halftime, I'm like, okay, I didn't even know I was going to do a couple Ray today. Let me make sure my volume's even on. But I turned it off at halftime. I'm like, look, I'm going to turn it off, take a little bit of cough medicine. Ooh, take another little more cough medicine. Oh, had a beer or two also. But I went ahead and turned the TV off. Just because I was falling asleep, and I was like, look, if I do hit that nice poundstone, I don't want to get woken up by, Kirk Herbstreit, dropping some big, whoa, did you see that? Or what have you, or Scott Van Pelt in that forehead or that head, blinding me. So I turn it off. I turn it back on. There's like 9 minutes left. It's 14-14. I'm like, how the hell did Texas even stay in this game? And a lot of people are also going back and they're wondering how Notre Dame not only stayed in that game, but ended up winning that game Thursday night to make it to the finals versus Ohio State. 100% so far. I know it's still early. We're talking about expanding the playoff now to 72 teams at some point because it's all about making that money. But I will tell you this right now, that so far in 2020, this season, the best playoffs I've seen in a long time. And Larry, I was talking to you about this last night. I love what they've done with, it's the Orange Bowl. Right? It's the Orange Bowl. It's the Cotton Bowl. It's the Sugar Bowl. I like the fact that they're still incorporating these bowl games because I know it's not exactly like it used to be. In fact, these games mean a lot more than they used to mean, if you will, as far as just one team trying to stay undefeated to stay in that, to get the AP vote for the top team in the nation. I love what they've done. In these games, the competition has been pretty damn solid, and I'm looking forward to the game on the 20th. The 20th there between Notre Dame and Ohio State. Cam says, Bucks lost every primetime game this year. What makes you think Sunday will be any different? It's a great point, Cam. I mean, a lot of Bucks fans will tell you they're gun shy with this team in prime time. I mean, it wasn't just this year. It's going back with Tom Brady. It's going back to Chicago. It's going back to the games. It goes back in Buccaneer history. It goes back to Halloween in 2001. It was a Thursday night. Bucks were playing in Detroit. I want to say, it was definitely in Detroit. Monday night versus the Indianapolis Colts when, Peyton Manning had the largest comeback in the history of National Football League. 72 years ever since Pete Rozelle initially first had the thought to even try to do Madison Avenue, Park Avenue advertising with your NFL. The Buccaneers have not been great on prime time. Some would pose that they get themselves a little too wound up. One of the reasons why Todd Bowles is one of the best coaches in the National Football League and will continue to be your coach of your Buccaneers, regardless of what happens tomorrow night. Don't sell yourself on it. If Bowles loses and Jacksonville, no. Still 53 guys in the locker room run through a wall. This team is balanced. They're disciplined. They're inspired, and they're very well coached. You know, you don't go through an offensive coordinator and Dave Canales, an offensive coordinator and Liam Cohen, and still be able to maintain a team that wins the division again for the fourth year in a row and gets the playoffs 5 years in a row. Which, little factoid or nugget for you guys and girls out there, congratulations to the Bucs now for winning the NFC South for the 7th time, right? So they're now tied with the New Orleans Saints as far as number one since 2001 or two that the Buccaneers in the NFC South first incorporated or first became a division. They've now won the division 7 times, right? They've now made the postseason 5 years in a row. That also ties the New Orleans Saints because New Orleans Saints in their Drew Brees, in their Sean Payton heyday, best they could do was 5 years in a row. But you got the Bucs and the Saints at 7-7. You got the Carolina Panthers now at 6, and you got the Atlanta Falcons have won the division 5 times. The Buccaneers are tied for the most division wins. And I know it's like me trying to look at you without my glasses on. Everything's a little blurry, so you got to kind of look at blurry. The fact of the matter is, not only over the last half decade, let's go back to last 23 years. The Buccaneers have been the best, tied with the Saints, but one of the best teams in this entire. We've owned this division, and after so many years beforehand, when we were in the NFC Central, the Black and Blue division with the Packers, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Lions, to be able to say we own this division, we run this division, we run this. It's pretty sweet. That's been pretty cool. So there's a little factoid for you, but yeah, their primetime performances haven't always been there. But read the room, Cam. Fact of the matter is, this Buccaneers team, they are ready for this game tomorrow night. They still got to show up and play. I'm here to tell you, I don't care if we were playing against the Berkeley Prep high school team. If this team doesn't show up tomorrow night with an attitude, hungry, and then you want to talk about the reason why I talk about Todd Bowles being one of the best coaches in the National Football League, because they're hungry. They stay hungry. It's so hard to keep a team hungry, especially after you get a ring. They got a ring 4 or 5 years ago. Keep a team hungry year in and year out, to face adversity, to have the injuries this team has had this year, this defense, the secondary, these receivers, to have the adversity with losing players or continuing to rebuild and be able to take Jason Light and be able to draft in. And I see Coach Mark Ferg right now. I want to go ahead and remind you guys and girls, be down here today and be down here tomorrow night. Hey, I'm sure Coach has some special stuff planned for tomorrow night for the Bucs and the Commanders line up there, national TV. And where else would you want to be than a world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill? Cam says, we lost to the Cowgirls in primetime in a game that everyone said we would win. 100%. And the team showed up. They had a good game plan. But that was the Cowboys' Super Bowl. And I mean, you could talk about that. Well, they're in the NFC least, and they play against the Commanders, and they play against the Eagles, and they had some performances. But you know, that was their Super Bowl toward the end of the season, and they realized that. And hats off to Jerry Jones for letting that contract run till Tuesday. Somehow, even now the season's over, and the Cowboys had yet another disappointing season, they continue to be in the top of the news cycle. That's what Jerry Jones does. Cam says Winston still throws interceptions, but he's kind of like Mayfield. How so, Cam? Ben Cornett says, hey, at least Jameis gave both teams a chance to win each week whenever he played. I'll tell you what, talk about an even distributor in more ways than one. Go Bucs. Good morning, Coach. Good morning. I'm good, sir. That's exactly this is the calm before the storm. But what you're going to have with over hundreds of televisions, the inside, outside, the front pushing through down here, the fantastic food, every beverage of your choice. The Coke is sweet. The beers are sweeter. Everything down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg. We'll see you at Ferg's. There's a reason why everybody says it, because they mean it. 100%. Bucs got to win a primetime game eventually. Might as well do it now. Well, they've won that primetime game, right? Seems to me that Super Bowl 55 was a primetime game from. Oh, I see here. Wow, the Steelers are playing the Ravens again at 8 o'clock tonight. Is that the 72nd time these teams have matched up this year? I'm not tired of it. I get it. The playoffs work. Playoffs, they've worked the way they do. But that's why I say, come down here to Ferg's. Games on everywhere, right? But you got your UFC fighting, you got your soccer, Coach has got every sport covered down here. It's, and they'll have it, if you want to hear the game, they'll have it on the party deck. DJs will have it running live, which one of the things I love about it. You tell me where else in this country, you tell me where else you're going to go, where every commercial break, The game is cut. We're talking Bucks games too, because I don't need to see the advertisers. I don't need to see FanDuel telling me how to spend my money. I don't need ESPN bets to tell me what they think I should bet on and how I should bet because the house never wins. I'm gonna put my money in your pocket. Tell me how I should win. Tell me how the Bucks were 8% favorites to make the playoffs 2 months ago. Tell me what I need to know. No, I don't need all those commercials down here on the party deck. The moment the commercial hits, even before the moment before, it goes to music. You got nice music, gives you a chance to catch up with friends, some high five. You're walking around, you get a new drink. Maybe you put in an order for those delicious Best of the Bay wings. Maybe you put in an order for that Cuban. Maybe you're lucky and they're serving that center cut pork chop again, which was just the most phenomenal pork chop ever. Maybe you do that. Come down here. Let somebody control the minutia for you. That's a Leo word. Let someone control the minutia for you so you can truly enjoy the NFL experience. You can enjoy a Buccaneers game down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Al McTavish, morning, Ray. Al, there's one of the guys that's handling it. Al, it's good to see you, brother. Man, it's been a long time. Getting ready to go on here at 11:20. Got my spot on the Tampa St. Pete Sports Connection with Mike Ricker, Ben Botham, and the boys. But great to see you, brother. I hope to see you down here tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow for the Bucks game. Playoffs. But I want to go ahead and work it back and keep your comments coming. I love it. Anything you guys and girls want to talk about here? Talked about the fact that Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator now with the Commanders. Of course, he was the head coach with the Arizona Cardinals. He kind of hung his hat out with little Kyler Murray. Maybe it was a little too much for him. Maybe he had a little trouble. The whole Steve Keim thing, the general manager, the problems that Bidwell was having with that team. I would pose that a coach will be set up for failure. One of the reasons why the Buccaneers and Jason Light is the best general manager in the entire NFL. One of the reasons why, the Buccaneers are the best organization in the entire National Football League. What Brian and Joel and Darcy Glazer-Kaslowitz have been able to do, what Malcolm Glazier did when he bought this team in 95, how he was chastised for spending $195 million for the Buccaneers. Of course, he buys it from the trust that was established after the passing of the original owner, Hugh Culverhouse, and what it's meant to have the Glazier family as our ownership here, as we continue to see problems going on around the league with other owners. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far, but I would pose that Cliff Kingsbury was actually set up for failure there in Arizona. But you go back to 2012. There was an offensive coordinator with the Texas A&M Aggies by the name of Cliff Kingsbury. How good of an offensive coordinator was he? He ended up helping Johnny Manziel get on the map, and he would eventually get that Heisman Trophy. I would pose it was also because they had a 17-year-old wide receiver by the name of Mr. Mike Evans, who would one day go on and have his 11th working on 12 1,000-yard seasons for 2025. Hall of Fame career, MK13. I just, enough said, Mike Evans. But he was the offensive coordinator there at Texas, the Aggies, when the guys were there. Of course, in 2013, Cliff Kingsbury would get his first head coaching job with the Texas Tech Red Raiders, right? The team that he actually played quarterback on from 99 to 2003. And he established quite a few records as a fan. God, that's a terrible thing. I'm so old. I remember him as a quarterback with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Of course, 2013, his first year as head coach, would see him see a walk-on freshman quarterback by the name of Mr. Baker Mayfield, who became the first walk-on freshman quarterback in FBS history to start the season that year. Baker Mayfield, Cliff Kingsbury. There's a history. I know you all knew about this, but I'm just trying to set a precedent here. You're going to see this probably tomorrow. There'll be a story. I saw a great piece on ESPN.com with Cliff Kingsbury this week. Of course, his father was a Purple Heart winner, Purple Heart medal honoree, Vietnam, and he had a chance this season to come out and visit Cliff there as he's now with the Washington Commanders, and he had a chance to go visit the Vietnam Wall. And Cliff Kingsbury used that as a story to share with the team about what it means for sacrifice and what some gave all. And some gave some, but some gave all, and what it means to have the ability to play in the National Football League, to be able to have the best sport in the entire world, to be able to have the freedoms that we have to make the choices and to do the things we do. And a big-headed Irishman like me, yeah, I'm big-headed, coming to you live here from the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill on a Saturday morning. But he shared the fact that his father came, and that was a nice piece. Now, I'm sure tomorrow we're going to see a little bit about the history of the OC because, again, Cliff Kingsbury ties back to Mike Evans in 2012, ties back to Baker Mayfield in 2013. Of course, Baker Mayfield will be injured that season, and there'd be, I don't want to say falling out, because Baker was pretty sure that when he moved on to Oklahoma, and of course he goes on to Oklahoma, ends up starting there, and ends up winning the Heisman in 2018. But Cliff Kingsbury will say that he was never unpromised the starting role there at Texas Tech. But of course, Cliff Kingsbury would end up himself moving on eventually. Let's see here. Oh, I lost some. Cam Decker says, "I hope the Rays owners buy the Bucks one day." I like your thinking, Cam, but let's do it quick because the Pavilion Stadium, we're going to break ground on it here. The plans are already there for the $6.5 billion development that will be the gas plant district and what it means to be the jewel in the crown of the entire city of St. Petersburg. But let's get that purchase done now, because then we can just vacate Raymond James. We can move every team. In fact, maybe make it ice ready too. Let's build a stadium that can host the NFL, baseball, hockey, and be ready for soccer. Because even though the Rowdies are playing just down the street there at Al Lang Field on the waterfront, the beautiful waterfront there along the where the Bayfront used to be, right next to the Mahaffey Theater and of course the Dolly Museum, let's have a multi-purpose stadium. The pavilion's going to be phenomenal. Let's get everything. It's Florida. Let's bring it all indoors. Cam, I like your thinking. Alec Tavish says DJ Froggy. Love it. Yes, Al. Al says, I heard the Jags are trying to buy the Bucs offensive coordinator. I'll tell you what, guys, good luck with that. And I'm not putting Liam down. If anything, Dave Canales introduced this offense. Byron Leftwich, who gets the shout out this week because he gets the interview, if you will. I'm not sure if it was a phone interview or if it was on Tinder. I'm not sure exactly where the Robert Kraft was interviewing or the Kraft family interviewed Byron Leftwich, but his name's back up in there. He says he wants to get back and wants to go ahead and run a team. I mean, I liked Byron Leftwich before he even became the Bucs OC under Bruce Arians in 19. Of course, him and Tom Brady. I say him and Tom Brady because a lot of the concepts were Tom, but they were Bruce Arians' no risk it, no biscuit concept. But Tom was bringing the boom in 2020. But I like Byron Leftwich. But and it's, if anything I've seen, I've been at Bucs games since 1976. Literally been going to games since 76. My first team, 7 years old. I tell you all the story. My dad got the manila envelope. I barely even knew what football, because mine now, before the Bucs, there was the Dolphins. We loved them. There was the Jets, because we're from Staten Island. Shout out Tom Krasnicki. Great job this week, Tom. I like what you're saying. You're pretty much going down this rabbit hole, what I'm talking about here at Liam Cohen. But I knew what football was, but it never captured my attention like the 1976 when the Buccaneers when he started playing. And even I can tell you right now, 0-26, as much of a joke as it was, as much as that first victory in New Orleans over those Saints in 77 and getting that first win, as big as that was, and seeing my family cry because it's like, hey, we did it. More like they were less mad. Maybe they were crying because they were maybe mad because they couldn't be mad. But I didn't know what football was. My dad gets the manila envelope. And I'm like, what is it, Dad? And he goes, come over here. Now, mind you, I'm 8 years old. Still got this big old Irish head. I go over. He opens the envelope, and he pulls out 2 sheets, because that was the original. That was the Kennedy original. The 2 seats, north end zone, row 14, right in the middle of the uprights. Over the years, how many times we used to catch a football. It's funny, because back then you couldn't do a fair catch. I seen some terrible, man, going back to 79, 80. People used to drink. Oh, surprised they still drink a lot, some people at these Bucs games, because they're having a great time with $18 beers, but that's another point besides the fact. That ball would come over. I've seen people dive from 5 rows up. In fact, it got to be so bad that pretty much through my 12, 13, and 14-year-old years, we're talking about, 83, 84, 85, as this team was kind of going back. They don't re-sign Doug Williams. They bring in the throwing Samoan. You don't get a chance to draft Dan Marino because you traded away the year before because Booker Reese was still on the board after you drafted Sean Farrell. Some of the mistakes this team made. But it got to be where I took it upon myself when the ball came over. My cousin Ted was there. My dad. I had people who had hands. I had the Kennedy all hands team. But I would look 5 rows up because somebody was going to dive. Somebody had too much to drink. And when that ball came over, they were going to get pie eyes and think they were going to get a souvenir. So I would actually, and it happened more than once, I would actually be the guy that when someone dove, I would push them. One time, this guy, he wasn't a big guy, but he's bigger than me. I'm only 14, 12, and 13. Hey, I was a teenager now. I pushed him so hard. That he ended up wham. Now, mind you, back then but they would dive, and I pushed him because I didn't want to land on my family, and he sure as hell wasn't going to land on me. And I pushed him, and he rolled over, and wham, smacked his head on the metal, got up kind of dazed and confused. I think most of it was because he was pretty drunk, and he ended up stumbling back up 3 rows. Back then, they didn't just throw you out of the stadium for stuff like that. I mean, if you were seen and stuff like that, but it wasn't like today where there's security cameras and there's security everywhere. It was more of a, the swale of the old big sombrero was a little bit, it lended itself a little more to, there were areas of the stadium where it was a little bit the Wild West. So you kind of had to police it yourself. So that was a great memory. I'm glad I got to share that one here on a Saturday morning. Jeremiah. Everyone, shout out here from South Dakota. Jeremiah, it's always an honor when you drop in on these shows. I know technically I'm on Peter's page, which is probably why you saw it. That's okay. Great to see you here on a Saturday, Jeremiah. Mike Stover, Jags better be happy with Leftwich. Yeah, and let's work it back to the Liam Cohen thing. What I was trying to say when I got into that entire story was, if nothing else, Liam Cohen I can tell you right now, there's never been, and I'm talking Bruce Arians, no risk it, no biscuit, Tom Brady in all of his glory, there's never been an offensive coordinator with a better sense of when to call what. Oh, they're coming inside. Let's get it out. They're going outside. We'll run an end around. Oh, they're covering. They got 8 in the box, but they're spread. They're in a spread cover too. Let's pound the middle with this great offensive line. Liam Cohen, phenomenal offensive coordinator. But the reason why I did a shout out to Tom Krasnicki, love what you do, Tom, there at WDAE 5 days a week on the drive. Chris Mathis, who's on right now on a Saturday morning, and his show. And Pat and Aaron, love you guys too. Love the entire team over at WDAE. Then again, that is the entire team. I'm not going to burn that bridge again. Yeah, I will. Come on, man. This is the biggest market. We got the best teams. When you take into account the Lightning, the Rays, the Bucks, the Rowdies, the Bulls, when you take all that into account, we need programming from sun up to sundown, local programming. You can put Colin Cowherd at night. You can throw Dan Patrick in the morning. Give us our live coverage here. There's things happening. I'm not going to go there. But Tom makes a drop, and if you haven't seen it on WDAE's Twitter feed, let Liam go. Anybody who's sitting here on a Saturday morning as we're preparing for tomorrow night's playoff game against the Washington Commanders, if you're going to sit here, and I don't want to name names, I'm not going to, and try to tell me don't let Liam get out the door, and discount what Todd Bowles has been able to do with different offensive coordinators with all the injuries, continuing to have a team ready, prepared, and getting to that postseason, playing inspired football. If you're telling me that, and I make the comparisons to Lovie Smith and Dirk Cotter, right? That was the Jameis development because we started to see a little bit of flash. Jameis was getting a little bit better. The interceptions, they weren't like they were. I mean, Carson Palmer and even Peyton Manning, when he was when the quarterback's coach was Bruce Arians back in '98, they will tell you that you were never going to throw as many interceptions as you did the first year in that system. That's all beside the point. Liam is a great signal caller. He understands to run where they aim. Let Jacksonville take him if he gets that job. And here's the point Tom Krasnicki makes, and I don't want to beat that drum too hard. You're going to have a plethora, and that 100% is a Leo word, of offensive coordinator. Wait, Canales was 1 year head coach. Liam Cohen was 1 year head coach. You're going to have Don Coryell come back from the dead on offense and try to get this team going down the field, which, by the way, ironically enough, Bruce Arians comes from the Don Coryell offensive tree going way back. But you're going to have all kinds of offensive coordinators. Do they come in and establish a relationship with your Baker Mayfield, with your Mike Evans, with your offensive line, with your running backs? That's where Todd Bowles comes in as your top head coach in the National Football League. Liam's got to come in. Byron Leftwich, Tom Brady had to walk into the wrong house to find the playbook during a COVID-inspired 2020. I get there has to be a relationship there, but it comes from the top. It starts with Jason Light. Actually, it starts with the Glaziers, but it starts with Jason Light. Trickles down to your head coach, Todd Bowles. And Harry DeGreek, shout out to you this week. You made the great point. Even keeled, most coaches will be knee-jerk. And that's one thing I haven't seen in these I keep saying playoffs, with these college playoffs. These coaches aren't making knee-jerk reactions, right? These coaches are staying with the game plan. That's why you get a Notre Dame victory. That's why you get a Texas Longhorns in it till the fourth quarter, because they're staying with the game plan. That's the reason why Todd Bowles is inspiring and he's such a great head coach, is because he stays with the game plan. He understands what we need to do. This season, you say, well, we opened up the offensive passing game, and, we had a great year, just like we had when Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans had their 1,000-yard season, Mike Evans' rookie year in 2014. Just like you had with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin's in their 1,000 yards each season in 2020. They'll open it up. But don't make any mistake about it. The reason why the Buccaneers opened it up this year, they had a lot of injuries in that defense, and they wanted to get that run established. They opened up the offense. It opened up that run, starts to play action. And again, Baker Mayfield is a master at play action. That's what he do. If Todd Bowles decided he was going to, if after 2020, this year, if Todd Bowles were to say, you know, I'm going to stay in Carolina, I got the house, I love it, I played in the league, I was a Redskin, I go back to Temple, playing for Coach Arians back in college. If Todd Bowles decided, respectfully, respect Coach, that he wanted to go ahead and retire, 100%. Would Liam Cohen make it? I would pay to see that. I would pay to see that experiment. But I'll tell you right now, if I have a choice, with a bettering, with a Falcons team improving as Drake London seems to start to find his swag and Bijan starts to realize, hey, I can run the ball. And as the Carolina Panthers now, Dave Canales, and little Bryce Young start to find his groove, and then who knows what's going on in New Orleans. As you have a team in the NFC South with improving offenses, I want to make sure we still have a defense. Because, again, now that we're here in January, now that we're in week 1 with a home game versus the Commanders. Oh, hey, DJ, what's up, Tim? Defenses and running game win championships. We're not going to have to worry about tomorrow night. It's going to be a very nice, little brisk, but a beautiful evening at Raymond James. The grass is going to be perfect. It's going to be in the low 60s, probably in the upper 50s by the time the game is over tomorrow night. So we're going to have that surface we need. But defenses and running game, that's what's win championships. Don't forget it. In 2020, 55, the reason why the Buccaneers won 55 is because that defense stopped Patrick Mahomes. Antoine Winfield said, I got a plan. Todd Bowles had a scheme, and we had an offense that complemented itself. Go back to 79, worst to first. The reason why we make the NFC Championship game, then we lose 9-0 to the Rams. A defense. Go back to Tony Dungy and the Bucs. Go back to 2002. Hey, John Gruden came in and won the Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's team. But make no mistake about it, there were four Hall of Famers and Uncle Monty on that defensive side of the ball that won that Super Bowl. So before you try to tell me, Katie bar the door, no, let Liam out, pay him money. Make Liam whole. If you think he's going to get $6 million or $10 million a year to go somewhere, and the Bucs want to, and Jason Light says, look, we'd like to keep you in the house another year. Baker really loves you. You got a great house over in Avila. You play golf. Maybe I don't know if Liam plays golf. You got a young family. You went from L.A., Los Angeles, or Tennessee to L.A. to Tennessee, and now to Tampa Bay. If you want to keep your roots for a minute, let the young ones actually have a year or two extra in a nice school here in what is paradise. Let's go ahead and figure out what it's going to take to make you that money. Now, I don't know what Liam Cohen is inspired to do. Ben Johnson in the Detroit Lions. I know he didn't want to go anywhere last year. I don't know if he's going to go anywhere this year. Probably so. After the Buccaneers defeat the Detroit Lions, they're not even going to play the Detroit Lions because the Packers are going to beat Detroit after we beat the Commanders. And we're going to end up eventually, believe it or not, hosting the Packers in the NFC Championship game right here in Raymond James Stadium, which is ironic because you go back to 2020, week 1 of the postseason, wild card game. We get by Washington, and we end up that game. Scotty Miller and the Bucs end up beating the Packers in the NFC Championship game to go on to 55 to come right home here. Wouldn't it be just great? Isn't it a perfect bookend to not just a 5-year, half of a decade here, perfect bookend to beat Washington now at home instead of at FedEx Field, and then to host the Packers in the NFC Championship here. I'm sure the Glaciers are liking that because at the end of the day, cha-ching, and I'm sure you Bucs guys and girls, Bucs fans, are the Buckaholics, the Leatherheads, the What the Bucs tailgate, Bucs Life, everybody. I'm sure we like the thought of hosting an NFC Championship game, but it does all start with tomorrow versus the Washington Commanders, and we're going to put our will on them. I don't want to use the term teabag, but we're going to be all over them. And also something you're going to see with the Buccaneers team that you don't see with a lot of other teams that have the success and the dogs that they do, not a lot of personal fouls. And again, that comes from the top too. That's coaching. Appreciate you guys for listening to me. I know I go on. Mike Stover says, Jeff's and Chris Cole, morning, Christopher. That ends up being the bookend of my perfect. I'm at 58 and 30 seconds. The reason why I want to talk about the whole Cliff Kingsbury thing is because you go back to 2012 when he coached Mike Evans at Texas A&M Aggies. You go back to 13 when he was the coach of Texas Tech when Baker Mayfield became the first walk-on freshman quarterback in FBS history to start that season. And then he had the success he's had. He's been a big part of the narrative with Jaden Daniels in 2024. as much as we're going to make tomorrow night about the offense, as much as the uh, chicks dig the long ball. I hate to use that reference because it's chicks to me as guys and girls, but just people in general. Everyone wants to talk about the offense, like big scoring. Jaden Daniels, the LSU kid, the guy's going to run all over the place. He's the Heisman Trophy winner, and now he's Rookie of the Year. And I get that he's going to have a game, just like Heineke was the leading rusher for the Washington team back in 2020. Jaden's going to be the leading rusher for your Washington team tomorrow night. Although one would behoove them to not try end arounds as the Bucs are scouting him, keep him in the pocket, which the Buccaneers are going to do. They're going to bring the defensive ends or your linebackers out deeper and come in at a point. Going to keep Jade in that pocket so they can cover the middle. And man, it's good to hear that we're getting healthy and we got Winfield and we got Jamel back. As much as we're going to do that, as much as the NFL wants to be about offense and Cliff Kingsbury, and he's touched everybody, and now he's the OC, and where's he going to be in 2025? Who's going to offer him a job? Which I would probably fathom. I would hire a Cliff Kingsbury before I'd even hire a Ben Johnson. Not that I don't know Ben Johnson's MO. Of course, you got to be in a room for the interview, but what Cliff almost did out in Arizona against the Niners, against the Seahawks, and what he almost did with a team that was going through strife with the thing with Steve Keim, the general manager. And of course, like I said, the things they've done, they've turned it around a little bit now with their coach now. It's escaping me. I shouldn't have done it, but I would pose that he'd be a better hire for me than Ben Johnson, and both men would be a better hire for me than a Liam Cohen. And I don't know what the Jacksonville Jaguars, they went after Byron Leftwich in 2021. And I get it because, again, Byron, interviews for the New England game. And they look at a Dave Canales. So make no mistake about it. Liam Cohen's a great signal caller. But if a team comes after him for a head coaching job, it's because they want a little bit of the magic that is this entire organization, right? That's why they do the interviews. That's why you're interviewing people. That's probably why Byron gets the interview in New England. He's not going to get that job. I don't see him get. They're still picking his brain about what it took to put the 20. How did you go through a pandemic, bringing in Tom Brady, who was here? So New England has a bit of a history there. They know Tom. Tom was in the room for 20 years there. So now they're interviewing Byron Leftwich and like, how did you do this? And what Byron says lines up with how Tom Brady is as a dog. And I want to know what kind of influence Tom Brady's going to have there with the hire for a new coach there in Oakland and Los Angeles. But now I'm just going off on a tangent. Let me check for any last comments. Anyway, tomorrow night's going to be a defensive game. Play the under. That's how I feel. Nobody else has any comments. You know what? It's about time for me to get ready to go on to Tampa St. Pete Sports Connection with my guys, Mike Rickard, Ben Bothman, the boys. Having a great time talking Pee Wee's preps to the pros, talking about some of our fantastic high school programs here in Tampa Bay, talking about our college programs as we talk about the playoffs, and of course, my segment at 11:20, talking Buccaneer football. If you guys think, if this was hard to stomach getting through me talking Bucks for an hour, it's better when someone's asking me the right questions because, sometimes I'm able to get a little bit, go on a deeper dive, if you will, and be able to get some of the numbers, some of that research I'm putting in this big old Irish head of mine. Don't forget, everyone needs to know someone cares. This playoff weekend, be the one who reaches out and lets them know tomorrow night's game. Get into a chat group, message someone from out of nowhere. Hey, I'm just thinking about you. Start 2025 off right by letting them know you care because then they're going to let you know that they care. And 100%, don't we all need to know everybody cares? This has been a Cup of Ray, and we'll see you next time in the Sports Web.